Do not take your eyes away from the red fridge. It is best played. Es mejor jugado con audífonos. To fully experience. Ajá. 3D Stereophonic Sound. Authors. Back. Están listo. Chat. Play. Empezamos fuerte, Empezamos. Ok, este es el refrigerador que se supone que no tengo que ver. No. A ver. No. Miren, chat, miren. No. ¿Qué tengo que hacer? ¿Que me deje comerme o...? No. No. De nada que... Ajá. No te muevas, desgraciado. Eres fan... No entiendo absolutamente nada. It wants to me look at it. Quiere que veas a él. It's been ok, 9 horas que... Little Princess. Al parecer lo está... ¡Oh! Dale, muñeca, dale. If you found... Fuck me, ¿qué es que eso no? If you found... Venme, ajá, no entiendo absolutamente. Help. Daddy. Little Princess. My fridge like Ellie's song. Little Princess. It's been 9... Ajá, no se mueve desde 9 horas. ¿O no? It found a fridge and Loris... Al parecer, la muñeca hace que no se mueva. ¿Por qué se cayó? Se bugueó. Ah, no. ¿Qué? ¡Ay! Ok. Ah, es como las típicas letras que se le ponen al refrigerador. Ok, entonces hay que buscar... Acá hay una. The fridge has ununderstood. No te muevas, desgraciado. D y E. Tengo cuerpo. It is... I hope she's still alive. The sun... The rose twice already. Sleepy. Washing machine stole my letter. La lavadora robó mi letra. Una R. De fridge debe de ser, ¿no? Yo diría. Hay una letra. Muñeca, dale a la muñeca. De free head. Le falta una letra. Está increíble. Mira, sombra dice refrigerador y vas a ver algo. La madre. Pues solo veo una cosa gigante. Miren esto, o sea, miren, lo increíble es que se mueve solo. O sea, se mueve la mirada para que no lo mire. Está increíble eso. ¡Una letra! ¡Desfrige! Eso es todo. Quiero ver qué hace si me mata. A ver, quiero que me mate. Mata. Lo voy a ver de reojo. ¡Hala! ¡Sí se acerca! ¡Sí se acerca! It's been my... Oh, shit. ¿Ves cómo se mueve? Sí, ya vi cómo se mueve, no manches. A ver, no, voy a quedarme aquí. Nada, estoy bastante lejos. Miren mis patas. Hola, mis patas, mis manos. Estoy en boxers al parecer. Ah, la madre. Te voy a meter una caja. ¡Una caja! ¡Cómela! ¡Come la caja! ¡Cómetela! Ay, sí, se oye feo. Ah, ya, no importa, ya. Da igual. ¡Hala! Se acercó un buen. Vamos a esperar. Mira, voy a ver hacia atrás. Y voy a esperar a que me mate. ¡A la madre! Se acercó un buen. No mames. ¡Hala! ¡Hala! ¡Ah! Está más cerca. ¡Hala! Está cerquísima. Te estoy viendo, desgraciado. Bueno, aunque sea encontrar una R, perdónenme, quería ponerlo. ¡Comeme! Ok, sí me comió. Literal me comió y se cerró. Ok, me gustó el juego. Me gustó, la verdad me gustó. O sea, tiene un buen futuro porque creo que esta es la demo. Quiero ver esa, a ver. Do not take your eyes away. Demo, ajá, mira, es demo. Sí, es demo, todavía no está cuando se publique. Bueno, estuvo facherón. Me gustó, la verdad, me gustó.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy.
Okay.
And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Ok, ya estamos en el juego. Esta es mi oficina, la 427. ¿Qué dice ahí? No sé qué. Ah, ok, me puedo agachar, eso acabo de ver. Ja, ja, ja. No puedo. No.
But Stanley simply couldn't handle the pressure. What if he had to make a decision? What if a crucial outcome fell under his responsibility? He had never been trained for that. No. This couldn't go any way except badly. The thing to do now, Stanley thought to himself, is to wait. Nothing will hurt me. Nothing will break me. In here I can be happy forever. I will be happy. Stanley waited. Hours passed, then days. Had years gone by? He no longer had the ability to tell. But the one thing he knew for sure, beyond any doubt, was that if he waited long enough, the answers would come. Eventually, someday, they would arrive. Soon, very soon now, this will end. He will be spoken to. He will be told what to do. Now it's just a little bit closer. Now it's even closer. Here it comes.
Ok, esta es mi oficina.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers. Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
Está abierta esa puerta. Hijo, la sensibilidad de este juego es awaiting input receive. O sea, tengo que hacer lo que el tipín me está diciendo. Ah, I hate Mondays. Odio los lunes. Odio lunes. Ok, por 2. Ya somos 2.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Yo voy a entrar a la derecha. Yo voy a
This was
entrar.
not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Claro, claro. Espérate, esta puerta estaba abierta. What? ¿Hola? Ah. Esta puerta estaba abierta. Ah, es esa. Hola, estoy como en un multiverso.
Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Soy antisistema y no quiero.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Esta es la segunda a la izquierda. Están cerrando las puertas. Bien, bien.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her. This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself. To put your work aside, to let her back into your life. She's been waiting. That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this, to reach out to her. If you can truly place your faith in another,
sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Gotcha! Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here. This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
Zeta.
Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence. Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do.
Acaba de
Now
cambiar
he's
algo.
pushing a button.
¿Qué acaba de cambiar?
Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life.
Pues tiene H.
But in his mind, he can go on fantastic adventures.
Ok, cambió
From
el techo.
behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful. And each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him.
3 para mi bar.
And so he began to fantasize about his own job.
What?
First, he
Apareció-
imagined that one day while at work,
Apareció estas
he
dos.
stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished
¿Qué
off the
juego
face
es?
of the
Buenas.
earth.
¿Qué juego
The
es?
thought
Eh,
excited him terribly.
El juego se llama... Ah, sí es cierto, no lo he cambiado. Me lleva... ¿Cómo se llama? ¿Cómo se llama el juego? ¡Ah! Ajá, de Stanley Parable. Se llama The Stanley Parable. Stanley Parable. Ahí está. Ahí estamos. The Stanley Parable. Reanudar. 2 para pasar tiempo con los muchachos.
So he went further.
Ok.
He imagined that he came to two
no veo
open
nada
doors
extraño.
and
No
that he could
cambió
go
nada
through
más que
either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold.
Presione B para preparar la zona.
As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls.
Está pasando.
And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable.
Presione J para contarle a sus niños una
It was
historia.
such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time.
Para decirle a su esposa que no.
But there is no answer. How could there possibly be? In reality, all
Cuatro de
he's doing is
siete.
pushing the same buttons he
Oh my
always has.
God.
Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one. And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it.
¡Ah! Lo hago, no. Quiero picarle. No me va a picar.
You see? Can he just not hear me?
Pique.
How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every
sí, de
second he
oficina.
remains here, he's electing to kill
Oh
himself?
my God.
How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself?
para cuestionar absolutamente nada.
I
Ok.
suppose I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time.
Okay.
And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button. And I
Hola. Okay.
How wonderful. Stanley was alone. Finally. This is great, he thought to himself. This is what I've wanted all along. I got what I wanted. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Ok, entró a la derecha, voy a la izquierda, total. No puedo abrir puertas.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Dispute with a coworker. Little bones and you take your passive aggressively. Do their work. Using slicer, sure, but. Ok. No sé si eso tiene nada que ver que... Todos somos diferentes. Tú debes serlo. Ok. Ok.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Nel pastel, yo voy para abajo. Buenas viernes, sí, efectivamente, es viernes. ¿Qué?
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy.
Ok,
All of
cambió.
my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in
Okay,
a single
hola?
moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating?
Okay.
No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't
repitiendo
actually gone. He
todas
wasn't
las
going to lose his
habitaciones,
job.
todas
He
están
wasn't
repitiendo.
crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground.
Mamis.
Then
Hola.
he imagined
Hola.
himself soaring through space on a magical
Hola.
starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been
Me
in his
recuerda a
life.
los juegos random que juega Germán.
Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life
por
exactly
Dios.
the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay. Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be
Está
real.
poniendo
I must
rojo
be
todo.
real. But hear my voice. Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black. This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
Mariela, ¿cómo? Espera.
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk.
Ese soy
And
yo.
although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
What? ¿Por qué están los pisos regados?
All
Los...
of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
What? ¿No estaban los papeles? No estaban los papeles. Ah, mira, aquí cambió. Input receive. No estaban los papeles.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Ya entró a la izquierda. Ajá.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Ok. ¿Derecha o izquierda? Pa, decime. Ah, me pica la pierna. Exclusive bathroom. Ok, un baño exclusivo. Para gente exclusiva.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication
¡Hala!
of any
Está
human life.
altísimo esto.
Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him, and so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course,
2845.
Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
Me apareció. Me apareció esta cosita. Nunca antes me había salido.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
Es un almacén choto, no se puede poner. ¿Dónde? Ah, gracias. 2864.
Forgot, but it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened
Se me
all
olvidó
by
el código.
itself, and Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo.
Se me olvidó el código chat. Ok, no me gusta esto. Ok, no. Voy a que sea ir ahí. ¿Es su sangre o es óxido? What? Me parece sangre. No sé si sangre o es óxido.
Descending deeper into the building,
Ah, es óxido.
Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years
No
it
puedo
had
hablar,
never occurred to him?
literal.
This question would not go unanswered for long.
No puedo hablar, o sea, no.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
This is Gabe.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death. The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
No me gusta ese sonido.
At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Pero sobreviví, ¿no?
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, the reflected
No!
had been of no consequence whatsoever.
No!
Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. So he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Ah, no me digas. Ah, sobreviví. O sea, una otra narradora me salvó. The Stanley Parable.
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance,
Sí, es cierto.
death becomes meaningless, making life the same.
Oh.
Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
The two doors of ice. Not sure about it.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free.
Le di el interruptor.
Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time...
Me dijo lo...
This is the
Me está crasheando el cerebro. O
All
sea...
of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of two open doors,
Entre las
he
puertas
entered the door on his
izquierda, ajá.
left.
Luego escaleras para arriba. A la oficina del
Yet there was not a
director.
single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Hoping coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues
No
to
estoy
his
entendiendo nada de
situation.
esto.
But his attention was caught by a keypad behind the boss's desk.
¿Cuál
What
purpose?
could its purpose be? In fact, this keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below
Encuentra.
his feet. And Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music.
New Age.
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated,
Pero
Stanley
quiero
calmly
más.
walked forward into the opened
No,
passageway.
qué mala onda. Ok, no importa. Ajá, ahora era para acá. Esperamos. Me está creciendo el cerebro completamente. Ahora,
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
ok, ese es muerte en vez de escape. Una cámara, perfecto.
Lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Ok. Un elevador podría ser.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
5. No voy a input. System power on. Hay 2 finales, ok. Ahorita vemos el on. ¿Y algo más? Algo aparte de que me explotara la cabeza.
And a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine. Unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere... Yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many
¿Qué más da? Sigamos.
still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him. For it was not knowledge or even power that he
Eso está yendo para abajo, ¿no?
but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel.
Con una casita y arbolitos.
It will be his. And that was all he needed to know.
So.
It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door.
Pues no puedo, pa. Hasta que esa cosa negra... Ahí está.
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense
No estoy moviendo
possibility
nada,
of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Ok. Beat the game, logro desbloqueado. Vence al juego, literalmente se logró. Ahora, ese es el final bueno. Vamos a por el final malo.
Happy or sad,
¿Esa es la máquina?
or content, walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded.
Termino el juego
And as
y
the
ahorita
cold
veo
reality of his past
si
began to
termina bien las 2 horas o
Stanley
no.
decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible
On.
power. Oh, Stanley, You didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they
Ay.
kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control? Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You
¿Tengo
were
que picar esos
supposed to let
botones?
it go,
Los voy a picar.
turn the
1,
controls off, and
2.
leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than
Ah,
that.
creo que
I'm
aquí hay
afraid you don't
3.
have nearly the power you think
Tres.
you do. For example, and I
Vamos a hacer
believe you'll
4.
find this pertinent. Stanley
4.
suddenly realized he had just initiated the
Ah, el
network's
4.
emergency detonation system.
¿Por qué está el 5?
That this machine is activated
Ah, está el
without
4.
proper DNA identification.
4.
Nuclear detonators are set to explode.
4. No me llames. No me llames. Estoy en un lugar malo. Me va a morir. Me voy a morir.
This is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are
Me
the
voy a
star.
morir.
It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desire.
No me digas que tenía que
This is
hacerlo
much
ahorita.
better than what I had in mind. What a-
Ah. Bye. Me colgué. Bueno, sigamos.
Shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going, what all this means. I barely know where to start.
No.
What's that? You'd like to know
Te
where your
borraré el
progress is
canal.
at?
Pues yo te
A
baneo.
moment of solace before you're obliterated.
1,
All right, I'm in a good
Dos.
mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance.
¿Dónde
of the
está el
story.
cuarto botón?
Sometimes when I tell it,
Ahí
I
está.
simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times,
Corre.
I let the office
¡Corre!
swallowing everyone
4.
inside, or I let it
Corre,
burn
corre,
to
corre, corre,
crisp.
corre. No puedo saltar, no puedo hacer un parkour. Ahí está, ahí está. Necesito... Ah, sí, efectivamente, you can jump. Efectivamente. ¡Ah! ¡Ay! 40 segundos, 40 segundos, 40 segundos. ¿Hay otro botón?
Only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock. Why not? These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button. Or this door.
¡Ya vi! Hay que picar el logo rojo ahí. Y yo perdiendo el tiempo.
Stanley, that this video game can be beaten, won, solved. Do you have any
Dos.
idea what your purpose in this place is?
No llegó. Corre, 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 corre.
That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along.
Lo
It's
bien
just
juega
seconds
Germán.
ticking away to your death.
Está
You're
padre el
only still
juego.
playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch
Te
you
spoileo.
every
No, no me
moment that
spoilees. Te
your
baneo.
time
4.
to see you made humble.
4, 4, 4, 4,
This is not a
4.
challenge. It's
4,
a
4,
tragedy.
5, 5, 5, 5,
You
5,
wanted
5,
to
5,
control
5,
this
5,
world, that's fine.
5, 5, 5, 5.
I'm going to
5,
destroy
5, 5,
this
5.
world.
5 y luego ese botón. 5 y ese botón. 5 y
Take
ese
a look
botón.
at the clock,
Vamos,
Stanley.
vamos.
That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until
A la
a
madre.
big boom and then nothing. No ending here. Just you being blown to pieces.
¡Ah! ¿Qué está pasando? Señor
Or you could go
Jesucristo.
peacefully. Another choice. Make it count. Or don't. It's all the same to me. All a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say, happily ever up.
Never Is never end. No entendí
All
esa
of his
parte.
co-workers were gone.
Juegazo. Juegazo. O sea, hijo. Juegazo,